The aim with these sessions is that we'll do a brief 20-minute, 15, 20-minute or so presentation on the topic. Then hopefully I'll be able to give you some demos, some live desktop demos of this technology in action, and then we'll throw it open to Q&A. Now, the Q&A obviously can be around what we're speaking about here, but certainly if you have other questions concerning Microsoft 365 Business, by all means, type those into the appropriate area in the meeting, and then Tim will monitor those and feed those through to me. So with that said, let's get into talking about the Office 365 Advanced Threat Protection. Now, the best place to start is probably with the architecture, because Office 365 Advanced Threat Protection fits in with a number of existing Office 365 technologies. Now, this is probably the best slide I found to help people understand how inbound filtering works in Office 365. So mail, unsolicited, obviously from the internet, is routed into the Office 365 environment, Outlook.com, thanks to the MX record resolution. Then Microsoft does the standard perimeter protection, IP-based checking, edge blocks, all that sort of stuff. It then goes through the antivirus scanning, so there are multiple engines from multiple providers there. Again, stuff that is bad or that does contain viruses potentially will be dealt with. Then we have our custom transport rules. So the important thing to remember here is that in regards to the process, your transport rules will generally operate before any of the spam protection, ATP, and so on. So remember that generally the custom transport rules have priority. And again, from there, we'll go into our standard spam protection. Now, that spam protection is part of the Exchange Online, so EOP. So we'll get safe sender lists, we'll get SPF, we'll get sender ID, we'll get the ability to do advanced spam management, and that is certainly something that you should configure to your unique settings. I would also suggest that you need to change it from the default settings you get in Office 365 to make it more stringent in the way that it deals with spam. Again, that is fairly easy to go in and configure, but you would certainly do that as a best practice. After it's gone through the EOP, then it's going to hit the Advanced Threat Protection, the ATP. Now, the ATP is an add-on, so basically it doesn't come standard with Exchange Online protection. It is either around a $2.50 add-on per SKU. It can be added to any SKU, but obviously it is also part of Microsoft 365 Business. So if you have Microsoft 365 Business, you will get ATP as part of that licensing. Now, ATP includes a number of services. Typically, the ones we're talking about are a safe attachments policy and a safe links policy. It will also do anti-phishing for you, and we'll cover that in more detail. Now, once the email has passed through all that, it will then go into the user's inbox. From there, the user can then also indicate whether it is spam, phishing, or whatever. They can report that back using a tool, which I'll show you. That is then filtered back into the analysts in Microsoft in an automated and also in a manual process where they will check that, and they will then update their rules and, again, improve the spam protection and, again, improve the ATP options as well. So part of the recommendation I would make to people here is the fact that you need to look at this as a shared responsibility. As soon as new spam detection methods are found, the spammers are trying to move on to the next one. So making sure that you report spam, that you let people know that they should be nominating stuff which is bad will help the collective intelligence here. Now, just as on the other side, we do have outbound filtering as well with Exchange. So again, when you send an email, it will again go through AV, it will go through policy enforcement, or go through your custom transport send rules. So one of the most common custom transport rule I would suggest you look at as an outbound rule is to set up email encryption. So, for example, if the user puts in the word, secure in capitals in the square brackets, it will then be sent in an encrypted manner to the receiver. So that is an example of a custom transport rule. Again, it will also look at safe sender lists, anti-spam management, and again, rate that. It will then send it either through a connector you've set up, again, or directly out. So, again, those two slides there, and we'll make sure that you get the slides after the event so you can have a look at those. are probably the two best ways to understand how filtering is done with Exchange Online. So remember that inbound goes through a number of different steps. One of those that is going to add to this is going to be the advanced threat protection, which we're talking about today. So one of the things that advanced threat protection gives us is this concept of safe attachments. Now, in essence, safe attachments means that attachments that are received into Office 365 service will be sent to a sandbox, effectively a virtual machine in Microsoft's data centers. That attachment will then be opened. It will then be verified that it doesn't change the registry, launch CryptoLocker, go out and start trying to pull down malware and do all the characteristics of stuff that is bad. Now, the way that you set the policy as an administrator, which we'll show you, you do that in the back end in the Security and Compliance Center. You set up as many policies as you want to make sure that your safe attachments are dealt in an appropriate way. We'll run through some of these. And then basically what happens is that from a user's point of view, when a email is delivered, they will generally receive notification that the attachment has been blocked if it's bad, or it's currently in scanning, all right? And then when it has completed, they will get the full attachment. So again, I'll show you this in practice, but from an administrator's point of view, make sure you go in and set the policies at the back end. And then from a user's point of view, they will basically see how an email, how an attachment has been dealt with. If it has been flagged as being bad, they will get notification. And we'll show you exactly what this is. Now, not only do we have the ability with ATP to check things like attachments, we've also got the ability to check safe links. So once again, the way that we deal with this is, or set this up as an administrator, is we go into the policy options in the admin area. We go in and set our policies. Once those are in place, when an email is delivered with a link, that link is basically replaced with a proxy link. So when a user clicks on the link, it actually goes through Microsoft proxy, and it will therefore be determined whether it's potentially malicious. So if it is malicious, you'll see that you get a warning page as is shown, and then you can control as an administrator whether you're going to allow the user to be able to click through that or whether they can't go any further than that. So again, the idea is that the attachment or the email may not be malicious. When it's sent to a user and they click on that link, which users love to do, then a warning will pop up and inform them that this is probably a bad place to go and they really shouldn't go there. Now, you have also the ability as an administrator to look at the reporting at the back end here. So you can track the clicks, the visibility of what people are actually doing in your system, and you can again do a number of different reports. So if you need to provide a report as to certain individuals who may be rather click happy and continuing to click on links, you can do that. You can also get an indication, again, of the emails that are coming through and whether they are actually tricking people or are getting people to click on those. So all the reporting, again, is in the admin backend there. So the way that works is we have this detonation chamber, this virtual machine that Microsoft manages and maintains that will basically open an attachment to see what it does. You also have the link containment here. So if that document has links inside, if those links are clicked, well, what do? Do they download malware? Do they launch something or try and change the registry or run PowerShell maybe? And again, we're also getting information from reputation data as well. Okay, so the idea here is that we're pulling information from a range of different locations here. So we're getting reputations of URLs from within Microsoft and also third-party AV vendors, other providers who are providing common security information. You're also getting the testing of the links. So what are the links pointing to? Where are they going? Are they going to download malware or do something that's malicious? You also get this heuristic clustering. So what this means is, so if all of a sudden, a couple of thousand emails are received by Microsoft across Office 365 that look very similar, and are asking users to click on emails or click on links to go to locations, then that is probably a good indication that this is some sort of spam attack. So we can look across large volumes of emails. I think I read recently that Microsoft is getting something like 1 billion emails a day. So that's a lot of data that's coming in that Microsoft can then start correlating and saying, well, based on what we're seeing, this is probably not a good thing. And of course, we've got our safe attachments, so we can take our attachments out of the email, put it into basically a virtual machine, open it up automatically, see if it does bad things, and then deal with it if it does. So the big power here, and I think this is one of the benefits that Microsoft brings to the table that a lot of AV vendors probably aren't going to be able to match. So Microsoft is able to get this strength of signals. So again, you've got 450 odd billion people authenticating to Office 365 and Azure. You've got lots and lots of Windows updates happening. You've got, again, 4 billion emails are being analyzed by Office 365 each month. Don't forget, you've also got Bing running in the background. Now, as much as we may not see Bing as being a useful search engine, it is performing the ability of crawling websites and reporting back to Microsoft what's malicious, what's not malicious. So, again, as a security tool, feeding into this concept of a security graph, that it is extremely handy. And again, remember, we've got lots and lots of users using these servers. So all of these are aggregated together. They're pumped in and into a service called the Microsoft Security Graph, and that allows it then to be made available across clients, across services like Office 365, and through API calls if you want to do that. So this intelligence, this real-time intelligence, is probably going to give you a much better defense than if you are looking at purely signature-based systems. All right. So the way that we detect security issues today is generally around the fact that behavior has changed. So rather than it looking for a rule or a match of a signature or a pattern, it's more around, okay, why is this user doing this on this device from this location we've never seen before? This is a strange anomaly. How do we deal with it? So again, that's only going to be through lots and lots of behavior analysis. So again, how is ATP going to help you? So again, we can put, or the bad guys can put malicious macros inside things like Word documents. So ATP is going to give you safe attachments, which is going to allow that attachment to be opened, and if it does something malicious with a macro, you will basically get warned, or that will be taken care of. If you get something delivered through another Office 365 or a Gmail account, asking you to click on something or to maybe download something, again, we've also got safe attachments as before, but we've also typically got our Windows Defender AV, all right, sitting in the back end that we can also take action on as well. So we've got these multiple layers of protection. When a URL, again, points to something malicious that may be inside a legitimate document like a PDF or Word, again, our safe links will jump in and prevent users from clicking on that link, or won't prevent them from clicking on the link, or prevent them from going to the malicious location. All right, same thing applies on our mobile devices, so we're going to have that same sort of protection. So we're going to be able to protect desktops as well as mobile clients as well automatically, thanks to things like ATP. We're also going to have things like the protection when you get a PDF document that has a malicious link in it asking you to do that. Again, that's where we're going to be able to have that safe attachments, go in, open it up, and actually start looking at the links inside those attachments to see where they're taking us and if they are, again, malicious. Now, ATP typically starts off as an email scanning tool, but it has been expanded to also work with SharePoint, OneDrive for Business, and Microsoft Teams. I'll show you where the option is for that. And again, that's going to give you that additional scanning ability for that information that goes into the location for your files, as well as protecting users from the attachments, which is the most likely vector. Now, remember that Microsoft uses its own plus third-party reputation-based information sources, so it's not just purely the Microsoft information. It does share that with other people. We've got multiple AV engines. And the important thing here, I think, today is the only way to really find out if stuff is malicious generally is to open it. And if we do it in a sandbox in a Microsoft data center, we're going to want to do that rather than allowing our users to go in and open the stuff and test it for us. Okay, so again, we sell these as well, anonymous sharing from OneDrive for Business. Okay, so they send out a link that claims to be from OneDrive for Business. Again, ATP will be able to jump in and pick that up as a link. And we're also going to get the ability in our desktop and probably in our browser to detect that as well. The important thing here, again, is we're going to get the most defense when we have the most up-to-date system. So Windows 10, We have the latest browsers. They're all up to date. And obviously our Windows Defender and stuff is updated as well. So that's another key important here, is to make sure that stuff is updating on a regular basis. All right, so again, we can protect against Trojans that are uploaded into something like SharePoint Online. All right, so ATP will do the file monitoring for you, and again, we'll take actions and we'll warn you on that. There is configuration that you can make around that, but you don't have to worry about malicious content that may end up in SharePoint Online or may be detected after the fact in SharePoint Online. You can deal with that automatically as well. All right, so again, we can do the same thing. We've got that protection and we've got that ability to protect our PDF documents that have embedded links. Now, just excuse me, how do we configure all this? So if you haven't seen already, you go into the Office 365 security and compliance area, and then basically look under the threat management option there. You'll find an option called policy. Now, if we select policy, excuse me again, you will find that you have three options here. You have ATP, anti-phishing, safe attachments, and safe links. Now these, I'll show you how to configure all these, what the options are, but you need obviously to have ATP enabled for the SKU to do this. But again, you'll find those policies, or where you set those policies, in security and compliance and in the policy area. Now remember that apart from ATP, Office 365 ATP, Microsoft has a range of security protection solutions. These range from things like data loss prevention, which we'll talk in an upcoming event. You've got Windows Defender on the desktop. You've got conditional access. You've got lots and lots of options here. So remember that when you're looking at the security options for your customers, there are many that Microsoft provide out of the box. There are many that Microsoft provide as an add-on. And there are also many that can be configured with premium editions, so things like Azure AD Premium 1. So probably the best thing to do here now is to jump into the desktop and let me show you how all this works in reality. So if I go to my security and compliance area here and go into threat management, go to policy. All right, you'll see that I have these three options up the top: ATP anti-phishing, ATP safe attachments, and ATP safe links. So if we look at ATP safe anti-phishing, you'll see that what I do is I go in and basically set a policy here. Now the idea is with the anti-phishing, it's looking at the interactions users within the business have between each other and whether they make sense. So you can generally target the phishing at particular users. The users you want to target that at is typically the people that sign the checks or make those large decisions. So the CEO, the accountant, the bookkeeper, those sort of people are the users you generally protect. All right, you protect the domains that you have. And again, if it determines that there is a user impersonation or a domain impersonation, how do you want to handle that? Again, I can go in here and edit those options if I want. And again, it will prompt me with safety tips as to whether it thinks those emails are being impersonated in some way, shape, or form. I've got some mailbox intelligence there that again looks at heuristics. You'll see that I can enable the anti-spoofing protection, turn it on and off, how it's going to be dealt with, and I can set the advanced phishing thresholds to whatever level I want. So you can set it to being standard or to being quite aggressive. And you'll note that you can create as many policies as you want here. So that's anti-phishing. Let's talk about safe attachments. So safe attachments are typically this sandboxing concept. So importantly, you'll notice up the top here that there is an option for protecting files in SharePoint Online, OneDrive, and Teams. Make sure that you go in and turn this option on. It's not on generally by default, so make sure you turn that top one on. And then down the bottom here, you'll see that we can set policies for our safe attachments. So let's go in and edit this policy that's in here that I've already created. And you'll see that basically under the settings, I have options on how I want to deal with this, right? So I can turn it off so there are no scanning, and I can set it at the other end to what's called dynamic delivery. So dynamic delivery means that the email body will be sent to the customer or to the inbox. They'll be able to read that. They'll also be able to get a preview of the attachment, but the attachment will not be fully there and complete until the scanning process has completed. Okay. Now you can determine to also replace, to block. You can control that. You've also got redirection if you want to send that to somebody else. Okay. And again, we've got an option here if for some reason the scanning takes too long to process. Now, normally my recommendation would be to set this to dynamic delivery. Now, the question is how long does it take to do this sort of scanning? Typically, the scanning I've seen is 1 to 2 minutes. I've never really seen anything take more than 2 minutes. Not saying that it couldn't happen, but in my experience, generally all attachments are scanned completely within a 2-minute period, if not much sooner. So let's have a look at ATP safe links. We go in here, you'll see that there is a global policy and there is also policies for specific recipients. So if you look at the global policy, let's just go in and have a quick look at that. All right, so you'll see here that I can go in and I can set blocked URLs. I can also set safe links in my Office 365 Pro Plus on my Android, and again, Office Online if I want, and I can also set the options here to track the users as well, as we noted. And then down the bottom here, under individual recipients, typically aimed at specific domains, you'll see that I can take what action do I want to take for malicious URLs, on or off, okay, and safe attachments to be scanned, and you'll see that I've got a number of options, including the ability to track users as well as potentially don't rewrite URLs, so whitelist URLs. Now, once we've set all that up, how does it look for an end user? If I go to a mailbox here, I've managed to basically select a number of emails that we've probably seen as very common, just to give you an example. So you'll see here that this email here is one that is typically extolling me to go in and click that my mailbox will expire in a very short period of time. I should go in and click on this notice, and there will be an update link there. Now, you'll notice in this case the link has been rewritten. It has a different URL with safelinks.protection.outlook.com in there. So that's the proxy address that is going to, when I click on it, go out and check. So in this case, I'm going to click on it, and you'll see that it takes me to this option here, which is safe links from Microsoft. So basically, this website has been classified as malicious. All right, doesn't really look like a Microsoft URL. And you'll see here that you've also got the ability to continue to this website if you want. And again, you can control that from an end user's point of view. Now, if you look at an example where I've actually received an attachment, you'll see that I've received a malicious attachment. Now, normally, I would have loved to have been able to demo and actually send myself a malicious attachment, but you can't believe how difficult it generally is to try and get a malicious attachment actually through to you if you're trying to do it for legitimate reasons, it seems. But anyway, so this is what it would look like. I do have an email that was sent with a malicious attachment. If I pull this down, I'll be able to go in here and preview this. Now, you'll see what I get is basically that message here that my attachments were found to be unsafe. Okay, and again, this is some information for the user on how that is to be handled. Now, if that attachment was good, then that would be replaced with the attachment after scanning has been completed. Now, the last one I'll show you here quickly is typical. You'll see here this is a very clever one. What it's done is it's actually made the attachment as a image file, and it's made it clickable. So the idea is, oh, this looks like an attachment. Let me go and click on that. Again, when I click on that, the proxy jumps in place here and prevents me from going to coachingwithchrist.net, which is probably not where the attachment is that I'm after. Now, the last thing I mentioned before we throw it open to Q&A here is that one of the recommendations I would have is that you go in and add what's called here a report message add-in for Outlook. It allows you to report junk, phishing, not junk, and so on. A very simple add-in, but the big benefit here is you'll notice if I go in and report these as phishing attacks, it will then take that, report that back to Microsoft, and again, add that to global intelligence. So my recommendation is that generally this should be added to all user mailboxes so that and users trained to make sure they go in and obviously add to the global intelligence that there is for this environment. So that's the quick summary on Office 365 ATP. Again, the way we get to it is we go to security and compliance. As an administrator, the back end, we then go into threat management. We then go into policy, and then we set our policies. Now, the policies can be set manually, or they can also be set by PowerShell if you want, and that's probably the best way to get consistency.